How you doing? My name's Steve Ragan with CSO Online. I'm here with Paul Jorgensen. We're going to talk about SOC mistakes today. So you've got about, I do believe, 10 to 15 minutes before you go on stage.
Yes.
Look, no pressure?
No pressure whatsoever.
Excellent. So I found him in the green room where all the speakers hang out before his talk. So real quickly, give me a brief overview of what you're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so my talk is around security operations centers, incident handling, and incident response. And specifically in my role as a consultant, but also as a security manager in a previous life, talk about some of the mistakes that I see happen over and over again, and then highlight ways in which organizations, even individuals, can contribute to either preventing those mistakes or helping to recover from them.
So, real quickly, what are some examples that you're seeing in the field?
Mm-hmm.
I do believe, and we've talked before, full disclosure, this video was recorded once before, and I forgot to turn the mic on. Let's just leave it at that. So, we talked about processes and documentation before, so...
Yeah. So the topic is around doing things ad hoc. A lot of security organizations have very smart, capable, experienced people. They have a lot of institutional knowledge locked up in their heads, but they don't tend to like to write things down. So when new people come in, it becomes very hard to train them, to get them up to speed. Not doing things in a repeatable, measurable way makes it very difficult to gauge how effective your security program is. If you're constantly doing things ad hoc, you might be missing things that you should be doing, or missing areas of improvement inside of your organization, because you don't have something really to be able to go back and do a true post-mortem lessons learned kind of process on it. So, some of the things that I talk about there, obviously the documentation piece becomes key, but then also the communications needs to be important. Not just within the security team, but then, making sure that the business operations side is involved, the IT operations side, because we really shouldn't be an island as security. We need to be ingrained into the whole organization.
So what's the uphill struggle there? I mean, obviously the overall goal is to make everybody work together and talk, but that's obviously not happening. So what do we need to do to get over that hurdle?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the first thing that we need to do as a profession is stop our default answer of no, right? Somebody will come to you and say, hey, I want to do this thing. No. And the conversation ends there. We need to engage. We need to ask questions like, what are you trying to do? Right? Don't tell me how you want to do it. Tell me what your end goal is. And then let's have a discussion about what's going to be the best way to do this that meets your needs, meets my needs, and most importantly, meets the needs of the business. Everything that we're doing has to drive or help drive the business doing what the business needs to be doing. They're paying our bills, right?
Can you talk about any examples of how this lack of documentation or follow-through with regard to policy has hurt an incident response campaign?
Sure. I've got a great example from my own history. There was an issue with a particular company with insider threats, and they had an inside bad actor. And instead of approaching the typical incident response process in that nice, orderly way, the decision was made because of the person having a certain level of seniority inside of the organization that they wanted to make sure everything stayed on the QT, right? Stayed under the radar. So as they went through and they were doing this research, and they're bypassing me but going to some of my direct reports to help them out with this, they decided that not only was this actionable from an HR perspective, they wanted to go and take legal action. But because they hadn't followed our incident handling and incident response plan, nothing that they had collected was going to be of any use inside of the courts, right? Because they hadn't documented where they pulled information from. They didn't go through and do anything around it was a civil case, so it wouldn't have needed any kind of evidentiary stuff. But, it would be very easy for an attorney to go and poke holes in everything that they had found. And then even from an HR perspective, it became difficult for them to let this person go. But had they followed the process, it would have been
This
fine.
wouldn't have been a non-issue.
Right.
Huh. Well, you've got to get downstairs. Thanks
Yes.
again for taking the time
Hey,
to talk to me.
thank you for
Appreciate
having
it.
me
You have a good
again.
afternoon. Again, yeah. Words of the wise, if anybody decides to do films on their own, plug your mic in.